Next up, News 7 presents The Joy of City Building, today from the Bob Ross Memorial Interchange.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the show, and thank you for spending time with us today. So many happy little cars with... That one wasn't so happy. So many happy little cars with happy little trees. I always like putting a little nature in my city. All the little Sims love driving with their friends through our happy little interchange here. Anyone can build a city. In this world, you have total freedom, total control. All you have to do is lay out a few streets, fill it in with zoning, and then watch the little Sims move in. And don't worry about your mistakes. We don't have mistakes, only happy accidents. Now, what if your happy accidents have happened so many times that you don't like your city very much anymore? Well, you can always start with a new canvas, or you can get your bulldozer out, fill it up with odorless diesel fuel, shake it up a little bit, and then just bulldoze the devil out of it. That's the most fun. Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the city of... Hey, that's not my line. Hi, I'm Lee, and it's my great honor and pleasure to come to you from beautiful Verde Beach, where we have some train gridlock to solve, so let's fix traffic. Yes, it's true. City Planner has brought me in as a consultant to get things moving again, and I'm going to share my analysis of what's wrong and some sweet techniques for vanilla players to smooth out curves and slopes on both ground and elevated infrastructure. Now, first I have to admire the skyline here of Verde Beach. This is very iconic despite being all vanilla assets. It's really well done. I also really enjoy the street network. You can really see that there's a history to Verde Beach. It's not like this was planned this way in every detail. Instead, there were a lot of growing pains, and that dictated changing things up over time. So I really appreciate all of that. It's the way I like to build my cities. It's messy and it's cool at the same time. Just like real life, where mulligans get called all the time. Speaking of mulligans though, we have this rail terminal over here. This over here is the Bob Ross Interchange, which needed reworking after episode 90. City Planner reworked the roads, built this roundabout, redid this interchange, and put in this couplet here that connects all of this through here. And it really improved traffic as long as the terminal here was turned off. This terminal, I've now called it the Bob Ross Terminal. So I've turned it back on so that we can see what the traffic issues are here. First off, let me just show you the problems. The roads here get overwhelmed by trucks coming in off the roundabout, and that's when the trains are moving. Now, when the trains don't move, then this gets clear, but then the trains aren't moving. So those are the issues that we're having here, and there's a few reasons why we have trains backing up. It's because we have short queues. As you can see here, this section of track barely fits a train. In a lot of cases, it does not fit a train, especially with the custom assets that City Planner is using, which, by the way, those are actually kind of cool. What do we have? Clearwater Southern. Yeah, that's pretty nifty. I like that. For Clearwater County. But anyway, yeah, so that's an issue that we have here with the trains. And also we have a lot of passenger trains moving through here, as you can see, which is really kind of a bad thing when passenger and cargo share a network. So to solve this problem, I looked at 3 different solutions. And I did a lot of experimentation over here in this area. I didn't just approach this willy-nilly, so hear me out and see what did I find. So first I had to consider the classic no-build option. Should we just close the Bob Ross terminal? Well, there were 2 reasons why I said no. First, this would not make for a very good video. We'd be done now. I just turned off the terminal and the traffic is solved. Yay! So that's really not a great option. That would be the end of the video. Second, though, the geography of Verde Beach really demands it. If we zoom out here, we can see that there's 3 rail terminals that serve the commercial zones throughout the central part of the city. We have the Bunker Hill terminal to the east, Buzzsaw to the west, and then Bob Ross is to the north and a little bit to the west. Now, Bunker Hill and Bob Ross also supply other industries across town or out of town, with farm agricultural products. So without Bob Ross, there will be more trucks, and they'll have longer trips to warehouses, industries, and commercial zones, which equals more traffic at the Bunker Hill and Buzzsaw terminals, and more truck traffic across the city in general. So closing the Bob Ross terminal permanently is not a great option. So if we're going to leave the Bob Ross terminal open, we need a solution that solves both the road and the train congestion. Now, the first build option we have was the one I proposed on the live stream. If we zoom in over here, just barely, that we could double up the terminal right here, stagger it a little bit, and then just have another road that connects across here. I was originally thinking that was going to be a lot easier, but that was before, let's see here, what's the name of this neighborhood? Bakersboro was filled, and it was just about to be redeveloped when I first saw this on the live stream. It's since been redeveloped. Things change quick before consultants can act sometimes. The other thing too is I thought about this option quite a lot. We've got this road here and this road over here. If we add more connections here, we probably are going to need more highway infrastructure, namely an interchange probably over here, at least a partial one, and we might even want to add a partial one over here. I'm not really crazy about how this particular interchange is configured. I definitely wouldn't have these ramps so close to the system interchange right here, but that's a story for another video. But either way, there's not really a lot of real estate to work with. There's a lot of complicated routing going on for the trucks, and I don't think it really solved the problem. I don't have any footage to show you, but this didn't really solve the issue. So I had to go back to the drawing board and look for another option. And the reason why, part of the reason why this option didn't work out so well is because track routing in city skylines is hard. There's really not too many ways a player can control cargo train routing except by the way the network is routed. So let me give you an idea of how all of that works. You can see what I mean if you name all your terminals first off, so you can see where trains are going and coming and going from, and follow them for a while. You'll notice that a lot of trains are rarely ever full. You'll also notice they like to route between stations in a mesh. Now, what's a mesh? Well, that is one of the annoying routing aspects of trains in city skylines, where every station, including those at the borders, there are border stations, every station wants to route to every other station it can reach. This happens with cargo, but it happens with passengers too. Let's look at the overview map here again. There are 3 tracks for passenger trains to get into Verde Beach from the border. All 3 separate from the cargo network, and they converge at Verde Beach Central Station. But there are other stations along that line too, and each border station will send passenger trains to all of the passenger stations that it can reach, one at a time. You don't stop individually at each along the way, so this is direct express service. Unless you turn off a station's Allow Intercity Trains button, this is what's going to happen. Now for cargo, this gets even worse. There's no way to set lines for cargo. So every terminal is going to send trains out to every other terminal it can reach, including the border. Now, unlike passenger trains, they can continue on to another terminal, but they may take only a fraction of their capacity. Either way, adding just one cargo terminal can increase train traffic exponentially because of mesh routing. So for rail, it's important to keep the network simple. For passengers, I recommend a separate network from cargo with one or very few stations that allow intercity trains, preferably like Central Station where transfers to local trains are easy. For cargo, we want to analyze what needs to go where so we can reduce unnecessary connections as terminals are added. On this map, I've indicated significant unique factory and commercial goods warehouses in pink, and identified with squares where resources are available and circles where they're required. Well, the good news is that the Bob Ross terminal only receives goods, so we can bypass it to move oil, forestry, and ore products, which will cut down on trains here. And we can cut truck traffic by half here if we connect that bypass to a new terminal I called Hamilton, which will connect Hamilton farms to where agricultural products are needed. Now, this is our second build option and the one I've decided to pursue in this episode. So my goals here will be to build a new Hamilton terminal. Second, rework rails for longer queues, separate passenger and cargo traffic, and to separate certain cargo traffic from certain other cargo traffic to prevent bottlenecks. We're also going to do some general cleanup of maybe some of the roads, but also especially the rails, so that we have smoother slopes and curves. These won't be perfect, but they'll be really good for vanilla. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to demolish a whole bunch of this stuff here. And I'm going to pause the game to do this because it's just a lot of messing around that I just don't feel like having to reset everything that goes on in the whole city because of this. I'm going to just cut all of this back. I'm not going to need any of this. I'm going to get rid of the tunnel under here too. Try not to take the trees with it. And we're going to cut this rail back all the way to here. And then we also need to get rid of the rails over here. We're going to keep this. And keep all of that. This is going to get reconfigured, so I'm going to... You know what? Actually, I am going to... we'll smooth this out. So I'm going to take that out as well. And we're going to reroute all of this. I'm going to get rid of the tunnel entrance. I want to keep the rest of the tunnel, because we're going to use that. And I'm going to cut this back. I have a mod installed that helps me see terrain lines. That's great because if I go over here to terrain heights, I can see that without mods. But as soon as, and I can bulldoze pretty well with it. But if I go to use another tool, like a road tool, without that mod, the terrain lines, the contour lines will disappear. So I highly recommend that mod if you're playing modded. If you want to go vanilla though, you definitely want to use the terrain height info view. Okay, so we're going to continue and cut back all of this until we get to about where it flattens out, because we're going to flatten all of this out, gain some soil, which is going to be very useful because we're usually running low on soil capacity from what I've seen on Verde Beach, and that should let us clean that all up. I'm going to unpause just so the trains will disappear, most of them. And we're going to start over here. Now, the first thing I want to do is, well, let me just show you one thing first here. If I pull out my gravel road tool, I want to show you something with terrain height. We have this set it to full elevation step. Is what we want, because that's the standard that City Skylines uses to go up to build an overpass over any kind of other infrastructure. Now in this case, if I want to build a bridge that is pretty much level, I can do that. But as soon as I get over into this hill, you get an idea that it starts to slope pretty severely. Now I could just lower that down onto the hill, but I don't get the results that I want, and that's part of the problem. So I can just bridge level right there, and then I can drop down here, and we can just eyeball this pretty well and get it pretty level. But how far up is that? How many contour lines do we have to count? Well, each contour line is a meter. So the magic number to go a full elevation step up is 12 meters. So I can get exactly what I want here if I just count 12 meters up. I can level that out, and then I'll know that if I extend this elevated section and then surface it, then I will get a flat grade. So that's just a demonstration of what we're going to do over here, except we're going to do it where it's a lot messier, and we have some slopes to contend with. I'll show you that in a second here. So first off, I need to figure out, right here I have my elevation where I'm going to run tracks through. They're going to be parallel with the end of the tip here of this track, and we're going to run a tunnel exit right there. So I need to make sure that this road is 12 meters below whatever I build over here. So in order to do that, I'm going to count my my contour lines so I can get 12 meters high, and then I'm going to flatten it. So that would be right about here. I right click, and I need to go with higher strength right here. Let's go all the way, and then I can just draw all of that out. I'm going to take it right up to the street, because we're going to use that in just a minute. I don't really know how far exactly I'm going to bring this past. Okay, so since we are doing a lot of this, we're going to switch from our 1-inch brush to our 2-inch brush so that we can get all of this done, except a whole lot faster. Now what's great about this is actually soil neutral. So we're cutting into the hill about as much as we're extending it. We need to make room for 3 tracks, maybe 4, as well as room for a cargo terminal and the roads to access it so that we can connect it in up here. First thing I need to do is build that tunnel exit. So in order to get the underground view to come up, we page down, and then I want to extend this 12 meters, 12 units, I should say, because that is going to give me the longest, most smooth slope I can get for my tunnel exit here, or my tunnel entrance, depending on how you want to look at it. So I'll build that, and that fits in very nicely, and it's not too severe of a slope, although it's pretty unrealistic, honestly. Either way, that is a good starting point. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to set up a couple of tracks right here. I'm going to make those 12 units as well to run alongside, and I'm going to widen that up just a little bit more. And that's going to allow me to fit a track in here, and that will be for my passenger bypass. So now let's extend this out here another 12 units. Let's go 10, because I don't want to get too close. I'm going to need a pillar so that I can cross over this, and also would like to be able to see. So we'll remove the vegetation right there, and we'll extend this track here also, and we'll do this one. Okay, so actually we're going to leave that exactly where it is and take that out, because that is going to have to be elevated a little further, as you'll see later. Okay, so now I want to pull this this dirt back. So I want to right click on the lower part and then push this all the way back to where it's against those rails. And then I've got a little bit of a slope here. It's hard to tell, but there are some contour lines running through underneath all of that vegetation. We also have some stuff going on over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this back just a little bit. I'm not going to go too crazy here. At least try not to. I'm just going to make it so that this road is level, and I'm going to rebuild that first. And I'm going to go with my smaller 1-inch brush. And actually, I need to use my slope terrain tool, switch over to that. Right click where we want. First off, let's level that just a little bit further away so that we won't get an abrupt drop right there. And we'll do the same over here. Okay, so now I'm going to right click just a bit short of here, and I'm going to go right directly underneath there, and just level that all out on a nice slope. It won't be level, I should say. I'm going to smooth that slope out so that it's nice and gentle and consistent all the way across. This is a magnificent tool that we've been blessed with in City Skylines. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to actually switch my 2-inch brush here. And, I did that wrong. No problem. Don't have mistakes, just happy accidents. And we can redo most of them, and we usually have way more money in the budget than we need. Okay, so that takes care of that. So we've got a nice smooth slope for all of the grades that are going to need to be put in here. Now, first I will rebuild the road. And I'm going to go to a smaller elevation step. I'm going to just lower that. Let's see, that's actually not very high to begin with. And it's also running into a slope. So you know what? We're just going to leave that at a full elevation step right there. And we're just going to lower that 12 units away. Turn off my road guidelines. I have this hotkeyed, which I highly recommend. All of my snap twos except for road length, which I very rarely turn on and off. Whoops, there we go. So I want to come out 12 meters, and then I'm going to just connect this right back up like so. So we have a smoother grade right there. That's a lot better. And now I need to add this track back in. And one other thing I forgot to do here is I need to level out the area between this so that we get a nice smooth transition right there. So I'm going to use my slope tool, and I'm going to use my 1-inch brush, I should say. I'm going to right click right directly underneath there, and then I'm going to left click from here and just smooth out that slope so that it is consistent all the way across this roundabout. So then when my pillars go down, they will be smooth. All right, so now I need to measure, because I want to have a consistent curve right here. I need to turn my road guidelines back on here. I need to measure how far it is before we hit this intersection point. And it looks like from where I am right now, if I turn road guidelines off, it looks like I'm about 24 units right here when I hit that point. And from the other direction, it looks like I'm about 8 or 9 units here. So what I need to do, I think I will cut that back just slightly. No, I'm gonna leave that exactly where it is. So I have 24 units that I'm coming out here, and I have 8 units here. So I need to come out 16 units. I need to get a pillar. So that looks like about 6. The blue line will appear when you get to 5. So that's 4, that's 5, that's 6. And I want these to be right next to each other at the same height. All right, so now that's 6 units. I need to go 10 more. And actually, yeah, 10 more right here too. And then I should be able to turn on my road guidelines and have a relatively equal curve with a continuous arc. And that is nice and straight. We don't have any lumpy bumpies going on this railroad like we had before. Great, so that takes care of that particular rail. Now the next thing I need to do is connect this over here to this because we're not going to bypass around the Bob Ross terminal in the other going around in this direction. That's totally something that could be done, but it requires taking away a whole lot of this hill, building a bridge under here, so rebuilding that road, and then bringing it in over here. That's kind of problematic for a couple of reasons. One is I'm still going to end up crossing passenger line there, and I'd really like to try to keep that from being too big of an expense, too big of a project. So I'm elected to just not bypass it for everything that's going from Hamilton Station going on over here towards Bunker Hill and whatnot. So what we need to do here, this is sort of the reverse of what we had over here before, except where we have a slope involved. This is way higher than just 12 meters over here. So what we need to do is bring this across and connect it and have it increase in slope as it goes. So the way I'm going to do that, once we have elevated infrastructure going on here, let me just show you something really quick with this. What we can do with elevated infrastructure is we can elevate regardless of where the pillars are. That's a really cool benefit that we have here. Just level that back out. So we can get a nice continuous slope going all the way across. Now, how do we do that? Well, first off, let's start off by going right-clicking in the center of the terminal here. We'll drag out here just to give us a little bit more space to work with, so that we don't have a steep, an extra steep drop off on our first segment coming out of the station. And then what we want to do is count down 12 units below that. So I'm going to draw this out a little bit further, and I'm going to add a segment that's just 12 meters long here. Okay, actually, I've changed my mind on this a little bit. We're going to put that segment in, but once we get everything leveled out nicely. So we need to count 12 units down. Okay, and now what we need to do... Okay, so over here we need to build up 12 units. All right, that's close enough right there. Widen this area out some. Okay, I'm going to right-click right here in the center of this hill that I've built, and I'm going to switch to my 2-inch brush and right-click and drag that on over here so that I get a good, smooth transition from top to bottom. Okay, and that looks pretty good. And we won't see the transition very clearly because it's just so gentle. It's not much of a much of a height difference there. Okay, so now we will just bring this elevated track right across here. Take that 12 units in there, and notice that it's about 2 meters sunk when we put an elevated piece of infrastructure on top of something and we surface it. Keep that in mind. We're going to use that later. So now I just have to connect all of this. So being a straight rail right out here, turn my road guidelines back on, and let's see how far that is. Looks like we're almost 19 or 20 units roughly to get out here, and about 43 units to get up to that point. So if that's the case, then I really need to just draw I need to come out about 22, 23 units from the terminal. And then I should be able to turn my road guidelines back on and line this up with a nice equal curve. It's about 20 units. Looks like I need to go 23 over here. For safety's sake, you know what we'll do is we'll go 24. So that's about almost perfect right there. And now we have a nice slope to that rail as well. And we can smooth out one of that side over there if we so desire, but we're not done yet. We have more work to do. So next, we need to make sure that we have a connection to this other tunnel that comes up in here. We need to have at least 2 tracks coming in here. One coming up from here. One will go into this terminal and one will bypass it. So what we'll do here is start off. Let's first identify about how far 12 units is out here. So we're going to have a curve. We're going to have a connection, a junction right there. And it's really going to be tough to get that to look very good if we have it come out too close. So I'm going to right click roughly about in the center right there, about 6 units away from that junction. And I'm going to left click over here. We're going to raise, we're going to just smooth all of that out. Okay, so now our first order of business is to get this lined up. So the tracks have to connect at 45-degree angles. That can be rather limiting, but we can get that to be pretty close, like if we do this right here. And then we'll cut that off. And now, let's cut this tunnel back to the point where the curve stops. Okay. I'll just try to measure out and see what kind of curve we need in order to hit this. I might need a guide road right here. Now this is a good angle to come off here because as you can see, there's going to be a hill. I can actually extend that up. It's going to be a hill, but it won't look too crazy, and it won't run right directly next to that other track, which is good. All right, so now let's see if we can line this up and at least measure how far out we need this to go. So it looks like we're 180 degrees. Always make sure that this arc is at 180 degrees, or you're going to be measuring the wrong thing. So it looks like we're about 27 out here. And how far out are we here on this? Looks like we're about 15 from the end of this. So we could cut this back about 9 units. I know this is really going to have an unrealistic grade to it, but it will be fine. I'm going to accept it. Let's hope I get that. There we go. It looks like I might have a little too much track over here. That's coming out 27. The other one is coming out 24, 25-ish. Mark this out first. So I've got 11 here. I'm going to take it out. Let's do 9. That looks about right. I'm getting the guide road and not the right. There we go. Yeah, that looks really good. Okay, so now this is the part where we're going to use the guide road again here. This is going to be an expensive way to do this. I'm sure there are better ways. You can tell me about it in the comments. I'm going to put a guide road there right where I'm going to put the rail. And then I'm going to page down, go back into my tunnel view, bring this up to the point where we're hitting the right guide road. Go right underneath the guide road. Looks like we need to make that guide road a little shorter. There we go. Now we have the right tunnel radius right here. So next what I need to do is demolish everything up to where you know, this here is going to be my tunnel entrance, and I want this to already be submerged so it runs underneath the highway. So cut back to there. And this time, we get rid of the guide road. Let's forget about that. There we go. Sometimes it's tricky to get the right guideline. Fiddle with it until you get it, and then we should have exactly what we want right here. Okay, so now we have that ascending. It's going to be a little wacky here, and that is a really quite a deep drop, but there's not really a whole lot we can do about that in vanilla. With mods, it's a whole lot easier to get a nice smooth tunnel entrance, although usually you're not going to deal with a terrain drop quite this severe on rail if you're trying to go with realistic grades. Okay, so now let's bring this out, and we need to put in we need to put a parallel track in right here. So we need to page up, get rid of this, and we'll put a guide rail right in here. And we'll try to figure out if there's a way. It looks like this right here will do. We might have to go back a little further for this. The other thing we need to do is we need to widen this out so it's level with track right here. So if we start here, it looks like we hit at about 16 units right here. Yeah, about 16. We need to go more than that. Looks like we need to go about 5 or 6 units out here. That gives me a nice transition line right there. It should be very gentle to keep the trains moving fast. All right, so now I need to get everything lined up in here. This is a little tricky because this is really a tight curve for a train, but it will keep things moving pretty well. All right, so if I just come out a little bit here, I can connect that. Let's do that from the other direction. And that's not going to be quite right, but it will work. Now this could really be smoothed out quite a bit more. It's just because of that curve going into that node. It's not the same radius there. It's actually it's going the opposite direction actually. So really tricky to deal with that. I could fiddle with this all day and I'm not going to get it to look right. So I'm just going to ignore it. Like I said, we're not going to be perfect in this one. All right, so now I'm going to get rid of these. I really don't need those anymore. I do need that one. And just to make sure that I keep that in mind, make sure that comes out right there. Okay, so next, what do we need to do? Well, we need to connect Buzzsaw Terminal over here. Yep, there's Buzzsaw Terminal. That goes underground, comes back up out over here, it goes over the bridge, splits up. This is going to be recycled for passengers. This side here, though, is going to be set up. It's going to have to go overhead here and then come over on another bypass track. This is a particularly tricky one because we really want to get as smooth a curve as we can possibly get, because this is actually going to be a really tight curve. The last one is actually pretty easy compared to that one. So I'm going to start off with this, and I want to basically do the same thing. I went out 12 units there. I'm going to cut that back, so that's roughly 6. And the next thing I need to do is really need to make sure that this comes out at a level grade right here. And then I'm going to count down 12 units. Okay, so that's roughly 12 units right there. And I'm going to do my little trick with the slope. All right, so there's another issue I have to deal with here. This is not up a full elevation step, so we're gonna make it that way. And the way I'll do that is page down. That'll bring me underground. That'll bring me back up to ground level, and that should bring me. The way I'll do it is I'll page down. That'll bring me down. Might bring me down to underground level. Then we go up to ground level. Then one up, and we should be about where we need to be in a full elevation step here. We want to go 10 units to keep the radius similar on both sides, and then I'm going to come out 6 units here. Yeah, that looks want to keep this curve as light as possible here. In fact, we might cut this and try to go 9 and 9 or 8 and 8. All right, let's try 8 and 8. Except I forgot to make sure that I get my elevation right. So to get, this is not a full, so I realized that this is not a full elevation step above the ground, and we need to make it that way. So I'll show you how that. So we're gonna go down, and that's gonna take it underground. Go back up, that'll put it at ground level. Up one more, put it up at a full elevation step, and it's just slight enough that it doesn't look too bad as it does it. Okay, so that should give us enough clearance to go across here. If I go 8 and 8 again, let's see how close I can get this. Now this is probably going to look especially bad because of the way that is not sloped very well. You know, what are you going to do? I can't really do a whole lot about that. I just don't feel like fiddling with this. So for the sake of time, we won't mess with that. Okay, so now let's bring this up to a 12 units above here. And we'll right click roughly over in here. And then left click to smooth that out. We want to get this on the ground as much as we can because moving earth around, earth is a permanent support for a bridge. But bridges are made out of concrete. That's not quite the way I want it. Bridges are made out of concrete and steel, which has to be replaced or maintained, but the earth maintains itself. Okay, so let's now snake this back around, and we're surfacing this. It's not quite what I wanted. Move that soil back. There we go. Now we just need to line this up. Put a guide road in. Guide rail. Looks like we've got about 13 and 9. I don't like that as much. Let's make sure we preserve the elevation right here. I'm trying to eyeball it here. And that's about 10, 12. I'll take that. That's close enough. So now I can soften all of this up. So we've got some pretty big embankments there, but that should take care of that. That softens that up pretty nicely. I'm probably going to mess that up again in a minute because I have to still put a passenger rail track over that. But for right now, let's take care of this over here first. Now, one of the things I want to do is that I need to have this be a bridge. I already took the tunnel out. And the other thing I want to do is I want to straighten up this highway so that it has better curves and so that it's more parallel. So I'm going to start off over here. Actually, we'll do this first. And I'm just going to level that out. Use the smaller brush here. Right click and underneath the highway, flatten that all out. And then I'm going to right click again and just take that and smooth it out. The same thing in this direction so that our rails will run nice and close. Now the other reason why I'm doing that is because I need more room for my rails, and I want to leave a little extra breathing room in here too for other things that might need to come through here, like if perhaps there's an interchange that'll get built. I'll show you that in a minute here. So in order to straighten this out, cut that all out, we'll go to a dirt road. I really like dirt roads for putting in highways here because there are certain advantages to this. So that's about 11 units, and I've only got about 9 on this end. So let's cut this back a little bit here. Go to my curved road tool, bring that up. What is that, 11 or 12? So we'll go 11. That should be. Now the only problem is I did grade back some of this terrain a little bit. It's not a problem. Right click there and just smooth this out. That should do. That looks better. Now let's run it the other side. Now one of the reasons why I like to use the gravel roads like this is because they have the zoning grid And the zoning grid makes it so that I can just go ahead and keep everything nice and parallel, because I will easily see it go out if it is not. So let's make sure these stubs are the same. And then I know that I have the same curve. Oh, looks like I need to do some more grading here. All right, so if I just go, it looks like the other thing too you can see is that I'm about 3 units center to center away from separated here. So if I go out underneath here, uh-oh, this might not be low enough. There we go, it's low enough. So start that at that node, and actually let's do my freeform road tool. Make sure that that is at a 90-degree angle, and I don't think that that's actually quite the way I want it. Oh yeah, it is. It's about perfect. Okay, so that side's done. Now for the other side, let's just try our freeform road tool here again, and just try to get this lined up until it looks as straight as it possibly can be. That's not quite it right there. That one looks like it's the straightest. Now we could fix the other one, but there's a fence there and I just don't feel like chancing it. So we'll just leave that one alone. Like I said, we're not going for perfect. Just trying to clean things up a little bit here. Get rid of that guy. That one. And just upgrade it back up to freeway. There we go. Now that's a lot smoother than it was. So our next situation that we need to do is we need to get a bridge. We're going to leave this alone. We're going to raid that back up over here. So remember when I said that when we elevate, we really only need to get about that's about a separation between the surface of the deck, the bridge deck, and underneath it is about 2 meters on most of these roads. If you're using custom assets, it might be a little bit different. So in order to get that to be a surface, I'm going to raise that about 2 meters. That's not quite all the way there. That should do. So we've got two meters right there. So that will ground that side of the bridge. And then I will right click. Actually, I'm going to extend this out a little bit. Right click, bring that out. And we do have a little bit of an elevation change, about 4 meters here. And we'll stop just short of the roundabout. Just level it off really nicely. I'm going to draw out about, let's do 4 units. We'll see if we can get this to have a single node. Yes, that's exactly what I want. All right. Now we just need to level this out here again. That's exactly. Upgrade that back to the same road, and look at that. It's pretty level all the way across. Bridge doesn't change much at all. Okay, so now let's make sure that we've got our rail alignment leveled out here properly. I couldn't have a little too much, just did anyway. Okay, so now we have to get these rails to thread through here, which is not the easiest thing in the world. That's because we have to not only thread them through, but we also have to make sure that they are able to come back out again on the other side. So I'm gonna just eyeball this a bit here. We really need to run this all the way up to the highway here. I think this will clear right here a little bit. Give it a little bit of an angle. Back just because I think we're going to need it. And then we'll go to curve freeform road tool, since that gives us a constant curve the whole way, and we know that we'll match up with what we set up here using the other tool. Now let's see how this lines up. That's pretty close. That's good. We want to start curving this as soon as we can. We might need a little bit of distance here. Let's try 18. Let's come out further here. Let's try starting at 16 units away. Oh, yeah, that's not too bad. All right, so we have 12 units on each side of this. That's going to be a curve that will be okay there. And we're going to run it about as close as we can to that bridge. I I think we can make that curve a little sharper if we come out further. So we're about 16, let's do 18. Come out about 12 units. You don't have to have that curve match up perfectly. And we're going to leave a little space in case there will be ramps added here. So straight segment here. Now, moment of truth. Yes, magnificent. Goes right underneath there. All right, so now we have to snake it and connect it back up here. I think I'm going to pull this back to the point where it curves again. So I know that's going to work. Let's see if I can maybe line this up in a way that curves it back around just a little bit more. Try to make it parallel with this embankment right here. Okay, we'll go with that. Make sure this one can pass under. Good so far. Beautiful. Great. All right, so now the last stretch here. Okay, so we're about 18 and 12 there. So if I just put a stub of about 6 on here, should be enough to connect it. Pretty straight. We'll go with that. There we go. Beautiful sweeping curve right there. Everything fits underneath the pillars. Got plenty of room to add ramps if we need to, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check here. Might even be able to add a 3-lane road right there, so that's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so that leaves room for expansion if we need it, no problem. Okay, so now we have to deal with getting our passenger traffic over here. So let's take care of that. First thing we'll do is get rid of that. We're also going to try to smooth this out a little bit. A little bit of extra curving going around here. So we'll just take all of that out up to there, there, and then we're going to level this underneath here, widen that right of way up a little bit more. And we'll raise this up so we get to the point where we should be 2 meters above. Should do. And we'll move a little earth here. Cut that back. Let's measure and see where that is. Not bad. We'll do that. This one's a little trickier because we have a pillar right there. And we're not going to move that pillar. It sees it as ground level now. There we go, that smooths that out nicely. And let's just bring that back to its natural state as much as I can. Okay, so the other side is a little more complicated because we have this leg of rail that runs right off there. And I'm really not going to want to have that next to all these houses to be on a piece of ground level infrastructure in order to go up. So I'm going to have to raise that another way. Soften this up here a bit. So get rid of that. And then I need to fish this through here. Straight section of track right there. For the time being, we'll just go with this. It looks like my slope is uneven over here. 4 units there. And about 4 units there. And that should line up. Take out that stub. Okay, so I'm going to start elevating things right here. And in order to have that begin, to get to that beginning point, I need to get the right, just extend it further than I need to. Freeform tool right there. And then I need this to go at least, I would say about 3 steps, 3/4 steps above. And I'm actually just going to go for the full. Okay, so why don't we use, we're going to do 3. So I'm going to use each of these as a guide, if I can. So it looks like this is probably about 3 steps above right now. So if I pull off of it, it should be roughly the right place. And then I need to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 steps higher. Try to get it lined up here. Okay, that's ground. That should put me up 3 steps. So it's a little bit of a slope there. That's good. That should hopefully get me over. Let's see. Yes, it does. All right, so now I need to get it down. And I'm going to try to use each of these steps. So that will hopefully be 2 steps above. That's 1. Yeah, that's looking very good. Bringing it down right there. Yeah, that's great. Perfect. Ah, wonderful. Okay, so now I have to get it over here. That's a little trickier. Okay, so we should be pretty high above that. Let's make sure that we're level. Also, we will try to level it out from over here too. Do a little experiment. Get a little crazy. Okay. So we're going to have to cross at a little bit different angle. We're not just going to be able to go straight across here like I'd like to be able to because of all of the everything underneath there. We're going to try to give it as straight as we can though. Now we know this is a full elevation step above. You know, we're going to give this a try. So that's ground level. 1. That's 2. That's probably higher than it needs to be. Yeah, that's definitely higher than it needs to be. So take that back. Don't want it to go up too high, or it's trouble. Let's see how that looks. That is not too bad. Let's try that. Can I get across? Not quite, because of the pillar. There is one way I might be able to overcome that. Turn off road length. I might be able to get right height. Yep. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, that's what I want to see. Clear that a little bit there. Now let's turn on road length again and see if we can go full 12. Yeah, we can. That's great. And let's go to a quarter steps and see if we can drop that at all. And we can. Great. Beautiful. Now we have to bring it down over here. Now, in order to pull that off, turn my road guidelines on, and I'm going to run that about here. Let's see how much of a curve I need here. Yeah, it's going to be a little tight, but it's not going to be a very long curve. So it's probably about 7 there. Okay, we don't need to go quite that high. Looks like we can go quite a lot lower. Also looks like we can go not as far forward. That looks really good. So I just had to fudge that a little bit because of the pillar. Now, I should be able to land this exactly the way I want it if I just flatten this out. Actually, I think I already did that. Well, it's a bit of a climb. But it's passenger rail, so it doesn't have to be quite... Oops. It doesn't have to be quite as flat. Oh, I can't help myself. Let's get this just right. In fact, we'll do it with the ground, too. That's about as good as it gets right there. I think that's a really nice gradual incline right there. We will accept that, and then we'll smooth some of this out. Beautiful. Great, so now our passenger traffic is separated. It flies over all of this rail over here and lines up in a nice row right over here. So now all we have to do is build ourselves another terminal over here, and then we're done. This is actually the home stretch right here. So let's get this rolling out here. We just want to widen this up a little bit here. Now I want to make sure that the road comes off about here and then snakes its way probably need to really run it straight across here and then begin curving it, because I think we're going to have a little trouble getting this to work with everything else we've got going on. And we want to run this down and across at about 12 meters, at least around 12 meters, I would say. So let's make sure that we get that about right. And we'll use a little technique that I showed you earlier. So we're going to go down 12 meters from this level right here. Be about there. And then we're going to go down right here to rail level. We're going to try to work this so that it's not too severe of a drop. I would say that's kind of steep right there. Steeper than we have on that right over here. Yeah, it's a little steeper than that. Oh, and actually, that's not where we want that to come from. So we want it to start here. So I'll right click, but we actually want this to stretch all the way across here. That gives us a lot less steep road coming down off of that hill. That I can deal with. That looks really good. Okay. So now what we want to do is bring our road across. So it's going to come off at an angle. I like the idea of it being at an angle, and want it to reach across at a full. Yeah, why don't we do that right? This is a long jump to get across here, so we don't want that to be. We want that to be reasonable right there. I'm having a little trouble with that. Turn my angle off and see what kind of. Probably want to go about here. Let's extend these rails a little bit further. So start here. Run up a full elevation. Actually, we need to be fully elevated on both sides too. Go with that. All right, so now I want to do the opposite. I want to go up 12 units here. Actually, it might be it's not quite level for sure. Widen that up just a little bit so you have some margin for error. Right click here. I need to widen that up a little bit. Okay, right click right here. Left click. You can get that slope to just stay pretty constant right here. There's going to be a little bit of a dip. With the node controller, you can actually make this be perfectly level, but we don't have that right now. Make sure that this goes to ground. It looks like we can just go straight on up here. Use our curve road tool. Probably be okay to have a pillar right there. That's not too bad. I'll take it. All right. Okay, now I have to build in my terminal here. And this is a little tricky too, because we have to have a bypass track. I'm probably gonna have to move this passenger rail just a little bit, but that's okay. We'll be good with that in just a second here. So I need to bring this down and around. So let me widen this up a little bit here so that we can fit a terminal in here. So we need a length of about 10 units right here, and then the road needs to be 10 units away. That will allow us to fit in our new cargo train station. And I'll put it right. Okay, now this is a little tricky right here, but maybe only a little. Might need to move that station terminal back a little bit. Okay, so this needs to line up. Yeah, I do need to move it back. Let me do that. Okay, so this needs to line up with the center track right here. No, it needs to line up with this track. So let's see if we are at the right length there. Yeah, that actually looks really good. So that was easy. Do this. Okay, and this is all to facilitate proper bypassing here. This is not, it's a little bit of a hack here. So I want everything to be able to bypass going around here. I want the next track to be able to bypass there too. So I'll build that there, and then I do not want this one to bypass. Doesn't look like I have. Okay, so basically that's going to be at a 90-degree angle right there. So I want all of my trains coming from Buzzsaw to be able to bypass, but I don't want them to be able to go into the station. I want the other two to be able to bypass or go into the station. And when we have everything coming in at one single point, then all of these are good queuing places where trains will never get stuck because the crossover won't be a problem. So now I just need to link these up. And then I can move this passenger rail out here. Let's see how far I need to go before I meet up. Looks like about 41 and I'm about 15 out. So if I go about 35, I should have it just about meet up where I want it. That looks good. Okay, let's connect the road. Alright, so I have about 12 units there. So here's another hack for you. About 12 units there, and we're going to go another 12 over here. Turn off our angle, turn on our road guidelines. That's 12. Now I want to preserve where this node is. Turn my angle back on. We don't need it to be too high up. So that's 5 away. I can come back down here. That one's 5 away. Demolish this. Make sure I'm 5 away. And then I'm going to go to half steps down to the ground, up a half step, out to where I meet up, and then connect, go down to ground, out to where I meet up, and then connect, and then I have a nice, smooth slope. Okay, and one last thing I want to do here is make sure I have my node here in just the right spot in front of the cargo train terminal. That would be right here in the center. Then we can go out a little further if we want. And then that can be, if City Planner wants to build an interchange right over here to get things directly up off of the highway, then that is his prerogative. I will leave that for him. So I need to get this built. This. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I just wanted that to be both regular roads. I want to go highway in the other direction. There we go. That looks great. It's coming together. Okay, so one last thing I need to do is I need to move this dirt. I need to flatten this approach out. Smooth that slope out just a bit. We'll start by right-clicking right here. Another one right over here, and hopefully we'll have enough soil to do this. It looks like we're about out. And we are. Alright, so let's fix some of this back up here. Turn it to its state, original state. Okay, that should do. So first, let's get ourselves a curve going on here. Actually, I just need to go free form on this. Get my 180-degree angle in the center here and bring it out to about... Oh, it's pretty close. I'll do that. And then I need to set up my queuing lines way out here. So I'm just going to bring them out to right here. That should be long enough to hold a couple of trains each. I think that should be enough. There we go. Now I can return that to its original state and get some of that dirt back. That should do it. Okay, so we have everything connected. Let's make sure that we have not missed anything important. I don't think we have. Looks like we need to reconnect electricity over here, and we probably need to put power to the other side as well. That should be enough to connect it. And then I'll get water out here. Uh-oh, that's not under the streets where it belongs. We'll let City Planner fix that. There we go. Just a little electricity up here. And everything should work just great. And let's make sure we put our name here. Okay. So everything should pretty easily go straight on out to the terminal and straight back into the farm. There'll be a little bit of a steep turn there, but it's not too bad. for the trucks. Our trains should get through considerably better. And everything over here is connected as well. So looks like everything should be a-okay. Let me just double check and make sure we don't have any weird things going on with any junctions that we redid. No, that looks pretty good. Everything looks good. Okay, so now we have a really long line of trucks that is built up right here. We also have a few things we can do to tweak some of the traffic here at this roundabout. First off, I've noticed that there's a lot of traffic that's queuing here. Some of it wants to go straight right and go into this couplet. The other part wants to stay on the roundabout, but there's only one lane to handle that. So I'm going to widen that. So that way there will be lane arrows for both. And so everything wanting to keep all the way to the right can, and everything going through can easily do that. Another place where I would like to have a dedicated right is I want this right lane to only be for getting onto that road to go up to Hamilton Farms. So I'll make that 2 lanes, and that gives me a dedicated right lane right there, right turn lane. Okay, so now that will solve some of that congestion a little bit. Now let's take this junction and turn it into a traffic light. That way we can keep some continuous flow going here. The other thing I want to do, because I really feel like this is a necessary change, the traffic flow here, this gets really bogged down because of all the trucks that want to come in and out of here. Some of these need to go into the terminal, and that'll hold up the garbage trucks trying to get back in there. It's really not a long trip to make them go back. The other thing too, well, I'll get to that in a second. So let's connect this back here, disconnect it, and I will even go to the extent making sure traffic keeps moving by putting a stop sign there. This will leave alone. And then the other thing I'm going to do, just to make sure that this garbage stuff gets through faster, is I'm going to just set this up as a 2-way street again. Because there's really nothing going that way, and it will actually be a shorter route, and it'll take some of the load off here and allow some of that traffic to flow more freely through here. Now, I really could use 2 lanes getting into this roundabout again here, because a lot of this wants to go back up to the farm. So let's make that an easy thing to do by breaking out my 3-lane road from the mass asymmetrical 3-lane road from the mass transit DLC. And we'll set that up all the way back here, and that should allow a whole lot more trucks to get through this intersection. And we'll take that traffic light out of there as soon as things clear up on this road. But otherwise, we just have trouble a lot of times getting everything through. In fact, I might even be okay getting rid of it right now. But that's at a good angle that it's not going to be a huge problem getting out there. And I don't feel like there's going to be as much conflict as there could be trying to get to that turn off right there. It already looks like it's working pretty well. One of the things that we will enjoy here too is we won't have to worry about passenger trains. They're just going to fly right over here and avoid this whole area altogether because they're not sharing any right of way at all. And we do have passenger trains working to get through here. Now our freight trains are definitely getting pretty thick through here. Hopefully this one isn't stuck. Nope, nothing's getting stuck. Once again, just want to draw your attention to the fact that I used this spot right here. I use the node on the very edge of the terminal to make sure that I am not having any issues with, there we go. I've used the nodes right there just so we don't have anything blocking on the crossovers. So that allows as much access as we possibly have. So we'll let this run for a little while and see how it performs. Well, it is fun to watch these trains, I will say. Everything seems to be flowing exceptionally well. We do have a lot of traffic on these roads. Let's look at the traffic view here. We have a lot of traffic on these roads, but there's really not a lot of red. And wherever there is red, everything is moving very smoothly. So that is exactly what we want to see. We do have really busy track right here heading back out towards the cargo hub in Bunker Hill, but everything seems to be flowing really, really smoothly at this point. We do have a lot of trains waiting to go out to the northeast. That's interesting. Not sure what's going on there, but everything seems to be working really, really well over here. And let's look at Hamilton Terminal here. Got a fair amount of activity going on in here, and we can see trains are bypassing the way we want them to, so we're not having any access queues going on over here. That is all looking exceptionally good. We don't have a lot of traffic coming down from the farms. Everything looks really good. Now, one thing that does seem to happen a lot here is we do get a lot of trains coming in on the bypass, trying to get into the station, the bypass around Buzzsaw, that is. So let's look at where these trains are trying to come from. That one's coming from out of town. Is this another train here? Yeah, it's another train. Okay, and that one's also importing. That one's importing. If I go underground, that one's importing. That one's coming from Chirpex, but almost guarantee that that was probably an import. It's hardly got anything that's going from Chirpex to Bunker Hill Terminal. But, you know, some of the times this gets backed up pretty bad. Yeah, you can see it's already starting to get pretty bad. That one's going from Hamilton. That's going from Hamilton back to Bob Ross. So that went down to one of the other terminals and it's on its way back. So one of the things that we can do to reduce this traffic is we can turn this segment right here into a one-way so that we don't get overwhelmed with import traffic coming back. That's one thing that we can do to optimize this. I'll leave that up to City Planner if he decides to do that. It's a pretty easy change that will keep this thing flowing freely. Otherwise, I think everything is working really, really, really well. Probably could stand to have maybe a traffic signal up here. Yeah, I mean, we could probably do that, or a stop sign even, or something. Yeah, I think that traffic signal would probably work pretty well right there. That would clear it out really, really quickly. So this is all working fantastically well. Our trucks aren't having to go all the way around the long way and do that loop. If you ever wonder why that happens, it's because there's probably not a node right in front of the terminal. So check on that. Otherwise, I think that this is really a rather successful set of changes that we've done here. We've got a long line of cargo traffic coming in here, but now it's not such an assorted bunch. We might have a few things like garbage trucks and whatnot in here, but for the most part, these are all commercial trucks and mail trucks, which makes perfect sense. So yeah, let's see how that's doing at the moment. It's still working. Actually, it's getting kind of bad. This is almost backed up all the way. Yeah, it's almost backed up all the way to the tunnel. So we might want to consider, if this ever gets blocked up, definitely consider changing that to one way. Otherwise, I would say that does it for me. Thanks so much for joining us today in Verde Beach. If you're interested in more traffic strategies, please check out my series, More Money, Less Traffic. Or you can see how the advancement of transportation technology affected cities we live in today in my series called Reddington. I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon who receive ad-free, early and behind-the-scenes access to new videos. And I'd like to thank you for watching. Back to you, Phil.